What's good, YouTube? Talking Auburn football here on the podcast. Here, talking a little game day stuff for the Auburn Tigers. Go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger War Eagle. Auburn will take on Mississippi State later on today under the lights at Jordan-Hare Stadium. It is absolutely game day on the Plains. Hopefully, most of you guys will get a chance to take advantage of all of the pregame activities. If you do decide to go, Auburn taking on Mississippi State in a very key, pivotal football game for both teams out of the SEC West. Mississippi State already suffering a loss, but the good news is it's not a conference loss. They lost to Kansas State, albeit at home, but still not a conference loss, still very much in the race. And nothing would get Mississippi State back on track than a victory over Auburn in Jordan-Hare Stadium. A lot of folks talk about this game as like a revenge game from last year where, it was perceived that Mississippi State pretty much beat Auburn up all over the field. When in ways, especially when you look at how Nick Fitzgerald, former quarterback for Mississippi State, was able to impose his will on Auburn, had about 195 yards running the football, is something that usually does not happen to the Auburn Tigers, going ahead and cleaning Auburn up in a game where Auburn lost 23-9. For one, I don't think revenge is the biggest factor because half the guys that, were there last year that kind of smacked Auburn around are not there anymore, including Nick Fitzgerald. Okay, and the only guy that was there was Colin Hill, and he's definitely going to be a factor in this particular football game. But Mississippi State will be without some key defensive linemen, things of that nature, to where, the revenge factor is not so much revenge against Mississippi State. If anything, Auburn needs to avenge themselves with the mistakes they made. 2 turnovers. Time of possession was absolutely abysmal. This was the start also for the defense, their downslide last season. Now, a lot of folks say, well, the offense kept the defense on the field, but at the same time, the defense didn't help themselves either with allowing 20-plus first downs in that particular football game, which helped contribute to the 41 minutes of time of possession for Mississippi State. What do I think needs to happen for the Auburn Tigers as Auburn goes into game day for them to be successful? Number one is do not fall for the rat poison. You got media outlets starting to kind of talk the contender talk, start to talk the sweet talk about Auburn after kind of dogging Auburn out throughout the offseason, saying they didn't have a chance. We'll finish up 4th in the SEC West. Now, all of a sudden, there's a lot of media love for Auburn right now. I think Auburn has to keep things close to the hip, really, really keep their heads on a swivel, and play good football like they have been playing. I really don't think now is the time for the unnecessary distractions. Auburn has a unique opportunity ahead, have a big SEC game against Mississippi State. This is the game you got to focus on. Yeah, you got Florida down the line, probably going to be looking at college football game day, making the trip to Gainesville, Florida for a huge marquee, blah, blah, blah matchup. But if you don't take care of business at home in Jordan-Hare Stadium with this opportunity right in front of you, all of that will not matter. Looking for a nice game from Bo Nix as well. He's starting to kind of settle in. We're starting to make some nice reads last week. I like him rolling out. I like him in the run-pass option. As Bo Nix gets a lot more comfortable with the run-pass option, which was what he did in high school at Pinson Valley in Alabama, led him to a couple of state championships, garnished about every possible award that a kid could have garnished in high school. So I think he's starting to feel what his role is going to be here at Auburn. I think he's getting a lot more comfortable with running the football. He makes some very good decisions, however, in the run-pass option and really helps once the run-pass option gets going and Auburn really attacks the perimeter. They become a very, very dangerous football team. I think they need to continue that. I think they also need to continue to push the ball down the field with Harold Joyner, with Seth Williams, with Anthony Schwartz. Anthony Schwartz got, kind of hit big on an end around play that went for a score, almost went for another score. So that's something that the defense definitely has to look at when Anthony Schwartz comes in the game. And maybe Auburn can do some things out of that formation with utilizing Anthony Schwartz as a distraction in the backfield. Huge game, I think, as far as schematics go for the Auburn Tigers against Texas A&M going into this game against Mississippi State. It's going to be really interesting to see how Auburn also incorporates Boobie Whitlow, Sean Shivers, and Cam Martin, and starting to get a little bit more rhythm with the running game early in the football game. Now, Auburn has done pretty well in the second half, but I just want to see if Auburn is going to be able to push the ball down the field running the football early in the game. And my best bet, considering that Auburn has some struggles in the interior line at points, I think Auburn needs to continue to attack the perimeter, kind of take an outside-in approach, and then continue to go from there. Last but not least, I'm very interested, and I think this is something that's going to have to happen, is Auburn continuing to play consistent on defense. That was a factor last year, I think, with Auburn just not having the level of athleticism that you would want to have in high-level Power 5 football. Yes, I think Deshaun Davis was a very cerebral football player at that middle linebacker position. However, there were certain plays that he couldn't make. Those plays like what, Zacoby McClain and Owen Papo and KJ Britt, those guys can make those plays because they're a little bit more athletic. But Deshaun Davis, Montavious Atkinson, and Darrell Williams just couldn't make the plays. As long as things were in front of them, as long as there was a desirable situation, not too much having to fight through blocks, those guys were great. But at the same time, they just weren't able to make the elite plays that you need to be very highly competitive. Even though they were, they got the result. We can't take that away from them. They definitely got the result, but it's the way in which they got the result. They kind of had a bend but don't break type defense versus this year. Auburn is doing a much better job of getting teams off the field, only allowing teams about 33% of the time to convert on third down, and that's one of the differences. Also, the yards per run, 3.1 yards per run. Those are things that definitely make the difference. We're looking forward to seeing how this particular game plays out. I think in order for Auburn to be successful, they're going to definitely have to avenge themselves from last year, not Mississippi State. Got to avenge yourself. Don't make the mistakes. Keep the time of possession in your favor. Allow quarterback Bo Nix to continue to gain some confidence and maybe, go over the top with a nice pass like he did against Kent State on that flea flicker. Anyway, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. Game day, guys, for the Auburn Tigers against Mississippi State. Just a few key things that I think Auburn needs to focus on to continue this recent success. Like this video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.